I think my main I would say weakness was me actually putting too much pressure on myself, me having too much expectation, because that I'm setting myself up for failure, and that was what was going on. And no matter how much I did, I always expected myself to perform better than the other person, and it's almost like I was not treating myself like a human being. Other people are they're allowed to go through stuff. For some reason, I'm supposed to just pick it back up, you know? Yeah. So that was one thing. And I think it just came from me trying to be kinder to myself and be more compassionate to myself. You know what? As much as I want to be successful, I want to be superhuman, this and that, you're a human. Doesn't matter like how successful, how productive, at the end of the day, you're a human. And I think that's like sets my expectation. I was expecting myself to act like the superhuman god level Bruce Lee. Because you know what? In my head, I grew up looking up to Bruce Lee. Yes. And to me, yeah. And he's a human being, right? But he's pushed himself to that limit. Yeah. So I was expecting to me, it's always like, you know, like how an ethnic background as well, someone else has done it. Yeah. So whatever you do is nothing. Yeah. So to me, I was like, oh, well, but other people have already done this. People have landed in the moon. People have created this and this. What have I done? So I would always compare myself to everyone else, and I would have crazy expectation for myself. And I would, even when I am accomplished, I didn't feel accomplished. So what's the point? And from the outside, people like see me. They're like, okay, you've done well for yourself. I didn't feel like that. I felt very small because I expected myself to do more. Yes. Right. That's how I yeah.
3, 2, 1. Hello. Welcome to another episode of the Jeoffrey Sarpong podcast. Today I have me as a very special guest, Christina. Christina, do you want to give a quick introduction to yourself? Just say hi. How are you?
Hi, Christina, right? We're actually old friends. We went to uni together. And weirdly, we just happened to cross path again. And now I'm on his platform right now for his video.
Thank you. I know that was like unexpected. I just literally just said introduce yourself without telling you beforehand. But no, we're old friends, went to uni together. And recently I stumbled upon a video from her. I'm going to put her channel in the description. Definitely check it out. And she was just like talking about some really interesting topics, like some topics which I've like long talked about with my friends, but also like thought about. And I was like, there was such honesty in that video. There was such reliability. There was such like, just like clarity in your thoughts and how you conveyed yourself. I was like, I have to speak to you. I have to get you on a podcast. And I know that like, this is something I've wanted to do for a long time. So thank you so much for being here. I've thanked you like 10 times today. I'll keep thanking you because this is amazing. Yeah. For giving me the opportunity to do this. This is really cool. Thank you for being here. I thought like we're very similar in a lot of ways. I feel like since uni, we've both undergone a transformation, both a spiritual transformation, but also like becoming who we are, like I was saying before. And I thought this would be a good opportunity to talk about how that journey has been for both of us. Yeah. And and kind of see where we can relate, but also where some other people can relate to. Okay, so to begin with, if I was to think back to my journey, right, and think back to when this all started, I would say it probably started when I started meditating. And for the longest time, and I don't know if this is just like ADHD or whatever, like my mind is just like everything at once all the time. Yeah. Like I just think too many thoughts all the time. And so it was like, the moment I started like bringing that down and really like meditating and thinking about specific things and like why these things kept like reappearing, that's when I started being able to sort my life out. Question I wanted to start with and ask you is like, what is your relationship to meditation? How has it helped you? If it has, when did you start meditating? And what's that journey been like for you?
Yeah, it's quite interesting that you asked my relationship with meditation. Meditating is me connecting to myself. So my relationship with meditation is self-care. I don't know how else to put it. It's self-care, it's self-love. It's me time for me. So it's very personal, that relationship. My meditation time is for me. How did it start? So this was 4 years ago. I think I just went through, so just a bit of a background. Right, so before this, I'm very open about this in my channel and my social media, and you know this as well, that I had gone through like depression, anxiety at that time. And when I was 19, worst year of my life. Social media, it looked like I was living the best life, and everyone was saying, you're in London, you're in uni, you're partying, like you're living the life. It was not the case. And it was so bad that I was very like suicidal, and I think I would wake up every single day. I wouldn't even know if I would have the strength to make it till the end of the day. I didn't know. Like I was literally struggling so much. And when I turned 20, I don't know, something hit me, because I always imagined myself, when I'm a 20-year-old woman, I would have accomplished this. I would have been this. I imagined myself to be a certain way. And as human, we're supposed to be progressing. We're supposed to be leveling up. In my case, I was stagnant. I was much more productive as a 16-year-old than as a 19-year-old. So I think that really hit, it did something to me. I had not imagined myself to be like that when I turned 20. So I think that was like, it needs to change. And I saw that as my second chance in life. God's given me this second chance, because I genuinely didn't know if I could see my 20th birthday. It's a bit emotional, but no, I genuinely didn't know if I could see my 20th birthday. So when that happened, I was like, I need to change my life. This is my second chance in life. And I did everything I could to completely restart. I was having multiple panic attacks a day, unable to do anything. So my meditation actually started from trying to calm down my anxiety and depression and things like that. So that's how the journey began. But it was not just like, let me start meditation. That was a complete, let me change my life around. Let me change me as a person, because I can either just stay here being stagnant and be sad. I have all these problems. Yes, these are going to consume it. It was consuming me, and it was a way for me to reclaim my power. Guru. And he talks about meditation, yoga, everything. So he was kind of like the person I looked up to.
Yeah, just quickly, because I've never met anyone who's seen Sadhguru before. Me and one friend has been watching his videos for a long time. It's insane how open and just. I remember he talked about this one idea where he was talking about living life closed or living life open. Yeah. And how you want to do that. Like that idea really resonated with me. What's one of those ideas specifically that resonated with you? That, again, you're in control. You can't blame anyone else for your problem. You're sad, you can't blame it in someone else. Even though if they hurt you, you have the control how you deal with that. And I think that made me just rethink everything, because it's not like I was just playing the victim. I was the victim in a lot of situations. But then there comes a point where you have to take your power back. And that he inspired me. You know what? I don't have to let them make me upset anymore. You know, it's me. I can control my emotions. So it was that. I think that's what something stuck to me. Yeah. And then from that, so you see Sadhguru, he gives you that understanding, that perspective. You still have to have the impetus within yourself to actually go away and do that. Yeah. What was that like when you started actually I'm going to actually make change today, wake up that day and make that change? I think it just happened, like I just said, when I had that realization, it was kind of everything. I started looking into more business stuff as well, right? Because second year I really wasn't focused on my studies. So it was kind of everything. I was like, let me focus on my studies, let me focus on spiritual stuff, let me focus on fitness. So it was the overall, let's turn my life around kind of thing. But I think the way I got into meditation, I think I listened to guided meditation or just meditative frequencies and stuff like that. I think that's what I started with. And then, yeah, I like to do silent meditation as well. But anytime, even if I haven't meditated, let's say for a week or something, and I feel it's getting a bit difficult for me to stay still, I go back to guided meditation. It helps me. So that's my favorite kind of meditation, is guided meditation. Someone else is kind of guiding me, but also it's up to me. I can pause it if I want to, and yeah. Was it hard at the beginning to kind of stick to a consistent schedule for meditating? Not at the start. So the thing about me is when I start something, I get very crazy about it at the start. So I think I was very obsessed. I was I want all the benefits. I've heard about it. Meditation is this thing that solves all your problems. So all I was thinking about was, I want to be like Sadhguru. I want to be like these calm people. Yeah. Oh, just levitate. Yeah.
Where is my spiritual awakening?
I'm still looking for mine. So I often do that because from my experience, I'll just go for
Yeah.
it. Says, thank you for that. That was actually really, really well put and really clear, and thank you for that. So yeah, I feel like from my experience, right, when I started doing that, after a while, I started really seeing the change within myself, within my mental state. It was more calmer. I was less emotional because I could pinpoint my emotions, and like you said, I realized that like when people elicit certain emotions out of me, it was me how I was reacting to them. So whatever situation it was, maybe it was anger, I'd put some emotion or some understanding about what they were doing, and I was angry about that. And so it really taught me, okay, cool, like really first check yourself in the sense of check how you're feeling, check what emotions you're going through, how is this person affecting you, and then if you need to react, you react. But sometimes I was like, oh, like it's just something I haven't dealt with in my past or like in my present that's really causing me to feel this way. Yeah. The question I have for you is, what was that like for you to start to realize the effect of meditation, how like the change started to happen within you? What did you think about it, and how was it like to embrace that change?
Okay. Right. So the thing about meditation is I think there's a lot of benefits that came with it. So it's hard for me to kind of just say one thing. But I would say I think the main thing is I was very restless. I couldn't stay still. Always felt like I need to do something. Otherwise, yeah, I'm wasting my time. I'm a waste of space. Yeah. So I think the main thing for me is I can physically stay still. That was one thing, because otherwise I'm just kind of pointlessly using my energy, wasting my energy when I don't need to by just kind of worrying and fluffing about. So that was one thing, that I could stay still. The other thing, again, about just kind of being aware of yourself and the emotion that manifests in my body. So for me, I was going through a lot of intense emotions. So let's say you feel sad, right? Where do you feel it?
Is it in my chest, in my mind? Sometimes both.
Right. So because all of the time, like our reality, we think like, you know, like when you're sad, you just feel like the world is grey and this and that. It's nothing's out there. It's all in here. Yeah. So it's for me to kind of, like being in, like just tuning in with my body. I'm feeling these sensations here. Let me now, I guess, try to replace that with new life force energy, with breath, or like I'm gonna feel that emotion with love and compassion for myself. So it was just more about like, just kind of really pinpointing those emotions and trying to replace it with a positive one. That's one thing. But I think the main thing is being able to stay still, not being reactive to everything. I was a very emotional person, very angry person, and a lot of people took advantage of that because they knew where the trigger is, right? How to push my buttons. So people did that. People tried it, and I fell for that. Now, no, not gonna happen. No one's gonna take my power away from me, because so many people have done that before. So I think that's the main thing. People knew where to push the button, and
Going off that, when it comes to embracing the change, then, like when you were seeing yourself go from, like you were saying, someone whose button could be pushed, someone who was in control of themselves. What was that like, and how did people react to you? How did you react to everyone else?
Oh, it was so hard, because the first change happens like mentally, right? Your thought. So I've made up my mind that I want to be a calmer person. I want to be non-reactive. I made that. I made that up. But it's really hard to put it into practice, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm this new person. I'm gonna be calm. People are trying me. I feel the emotions. Yeah. Now this is the hardest part, because I feel anger. It's easy for me to lash that onto someone else. I'm empty. Done. Right? Now you have to hold on to whatever that emotion is, whatever that energy is. You have to transmute it into something positive. But until it transmutes into something positive, you're stuck with that anger. You're stuck with that pain. So that was so hard. I was just like, oh, you don't know that I could do something, but I'm trying to be a better person. Like, you should be really thanking me for doing the inner work. I had a lot of internal dialogues, Like, I just can't. I'm trying to be a better person, so I can't say this out loud. Yes. But internally, I am fighting not to react. And then after a while, yeah, it just becomes normal. Like, you just don't react to it, and you're like, oh, whatever. Like, I think before, even though, like, you know, some people are like, oh, they're talking rubbish, they just don't care about it. I couldn't. It would bother me so much. But now it's like, yeah, okay, they're just not worth it, and I can just brush it off. Before, I couldn't do that.
So you talk about other people, like, still stuck in that kind of, you know, trying to affect you. You know, I say some people are kind of asleep, not conscious of themselves, their emotions, and who they are. How did you react to that? Because I used to react very annoyingly to my friends who were still kind of asleep, in the sense that, like, they were like not in touch with their emotions, in touch with who they are, so that would affect me in the negative way, like you're saying. And I was trying to fix myself. I was like, actually, you know, so I started becoming a little bit more annoyed with them because I felt like they weren't doing the work that I was doing.
Right. I think that happens to everyone at the start of their spiritual journey, because it's like you've just learned something that's helped you. So obviously you want to share that knowledge. You want them to go through the work so they can benefit as well. And it's not coming from like a bad place at all. You care about them. But then after a while, you know what? Everyone has their own journey. And it's not up to me. And I can say like, oh, I'm healed, or like I'm wise and stuff, but then there's someone else thinking, that's stupid. That was me 10 years ago. Someone else is in a different level, you know? So everyone has their own trigger moments as well. Like, yeah, I'm not the person I was a year ago, but I just didn't change. Everyone has their trigger moments. So it's not up to me to tell someone, you should be doing this. I can put that out there, like, oh, this is good for you, but I can't force it on someone. It's their work, and some people will never do the work, and that's their life, and they miss out on the benefit. That's their consequences. It doesn't affect me. If they're directly doing something, let's say someone has anger issue and it's directly affecting me, then yeah, I need to put up my boundaries. I need to tell them stay away. But if they're just an angry person and they don't do anything about it, I'll just remove myself from the environment.
It's very interesting. You mentioned about putting up boundaries.
Yeah.
A lot of people struggle with that. What kind of advice would you give to people about putting up boundaries?
It's not selfish. Because if okay, there's a saying: if you tolerate sin, you're a sinner as well. So that's something I heard a lot. So let's say you're being mean to me, and if I'm just stay here taking that shit, I'm enabling it. I'm letting that happen, right?
Yes.
So I need to remove myself from the equation, and then there's no sin. Yeah. So that's how I see it. It's like, also, you need to love yourself. You wouldn't let, like, this happens all the time. Like, if there's my friend tells me something, and let's say someone treated them badly, I get so mad, and I'll tell them stop being friends with them immediately. But then in my case, I'm like, but the other person this, other person that, and what does that say? I clearly don't value myself as much. Why would you not put boundaries? Like, not just every person, I think they should really like treasure themselves. If you really thought you're the treasure, wouldn't you put it in a safe locker? Would you just leave it out there? No, for real. No. Because I think we have this, like, as a society, like, if everyone says, oh, Jeff is amazing, then everyone will believe Jeff is amazing. Like, it's like I don't know, like a following thing. Or if that person is underrated, overrated, who are you to say? Right? You can have your opinion. If people think they're amazing to them. I can't say they're overrated, maybe in my opinion. But it's just things like that. It's just like, you really have to put yourself first, and you have to. It's not selfish. It's you have to protect yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup.
You're spitting, like, that's crazy. Like, I'm having to, like, but no, 100%. I completely agree with what you're saying. I think that journey at the beginning, making me realizing those points that you're talking about, you can't pour from an empty cup, so important, especially when it comes to, like, when you're, like, for example, for me, right, I grew up in a family where I was the oldest boy, so I'm like the breadwinner, this pressure on me, and I felt so much to give. But at some point I reached in my life, I was like, wait, I have nothing to give because I've been given so much. I need to be able to actually really withdraw, find myself within myself, so I can actually even help these people, you know? And I was like, that was the beginning of when I started understanding, actually, I have to learn to overcome certain emotions. I have to learn to, maybe not overcome them, but understand them, you know? The question I wanted to ask you then, like, how do you, in this journey, you're going from where you are to where you are going and that journey. I know, relating it back to one of the videos I saw, you talked about how to overcome fear, expectations, and those kind of and worries and those kind of emotions. Talk to me about that. What was that like for you, overcoming those emotions and really kind of blossoming into who you really are?
Okay. So I think my main I would say weakness was me actually putting too much pressure on myself, me having too much expectation, because that I'm setting myself up for failure. And that was what was going on. And no matter how much I did, I always expected myself to perform better than the other person. And it's almost like I was not treating myself like a human being. Other people are they're allowed to go through stuff. For some reason, I'm supposed to just pick it back up, you know? Yeah. So that was one thing. And I think it just came from me trying to be kinder to myself and be more compassionate to myself. You know what? As much as I want to be successful, I want to be superhuman, this and that, you're a human. Doesn't matter like how successful, how productive, at the end of the day, you're a human. And I think that's like sets my expectation. I was expecting myself to act like the superhuman, God level Bruce Lee. Because you know what? In my head, I grew up looking up to Bruce Lee. Yes. And to me, yeah. And he's a human being, right? But he's pushed himself to that limit. Yeah. So I was expecting to me, it's always like, you know, like how an ethnic background as well, someone else has done it. Yeah. So whatever you do is nothing. Yeah. So to me, I'm like, oh, well, but other people have already done this. People have landed in the moon. People have created this and this. What have I done? So I would always compare myself to everyone else, and I would have crazy expectation for myself. And I would, even when I am accomplished, I didn't feel accomplished. So what's the point? And from the outside, people like see me, they're like, okay, you've done well for yourself. I didn't feel like that. I felt very small because I expected myself to do more. Yes. Right. Yeah, sometimes we are like our own enemy.
100%.
Yeah.
Why do you think we do that? Why do you think we put those expectations on ourselves? You mentioned about culture. That's a big part of that. Why do you think we stay not treating ourselves like human beings, like people that, you know, we actually love and care for?
I think, well, I can only talk from my experience. I'm Asian. So our parents, grandparents, they had a harder life. So whatever we do, it's not going to add up to that, because they lived in survival mode. Yeah. They had to go to different countries without knowing the language, and we can't compare their life. But I think because their life was so hard, whatever we do, we're always going to feel like we're not doing enough. They made sacrifices for us, and now we need to pay for that. So I think in my head anyway, that was the way I thought about it. It's like, I have a good opportunity. I'm in London. I get to go to Brunel University. There are people out there in Nepal, they couldn't even go to school, let alone good education. So also I felt like the burden of my country was like, I should be representing them. I have a better opportunity, so I should be working harder. I always felt that for myself. And then I think recently, you know what? Yeah, I am fortunate, but I don't need to feel guilty about it. I don't need to feel shame about it. I felt a lot of guilt and shame just for having a better life than most people, because I only moved here when I was 12. So I've seen the life there. I've seen the life here. So now that I have an easy life, I have opportunities and stuff, it almost felt like, did I deserve this? Or did I just get lucky? Yeah, and there is that factor. Yeah, I've been given this opportunity, but I also worked hard for it. I also had to study. Like, it's not like, oh, you go to uni and you just come out with a good degree and jobs. Like, no, I worked hard for it as well. So I think it was like me recognizing my part that I played. It didn't just happen just because I was given this opportunity. I worked for it. So yeah, I think that helped.
So part of letting go was recognizing that you worked hard yourself to gain those things that you had, and those expectations that people were putting on you, like you're putting on yourself. Yeah, they weren't really like warranted, because you were still working hard, you're still growing.
Partly yes, but the other thing is also, you know what? If you're privileged, then you're privileged. You can be grateful, but you don't need to feel shamed for it. You don't need to feel guilty about it, because I'm born with. I've got like
2 hands.
Yeah, 2 hands. I've got limbs. Someone is not born with that. Now I'm supposed to feel bad? No, I can do what I can do to help them, but I can't feel bad that, oh, you know what, I can walk and you can't, because that's my destiny and that's yours. Yeah.
Okay, that's beautiful. Actually, that's beautiful. What are some of the ways? I know that you mentioned about letting go. What are some of the ways you see other people struggling to let go? And like, I know we can only speak from your perspective, but I know that we also have friends or people that we know and they struggle to let go in their own ways. What advice would you give to those kind of people about like overcoming that?
Okay, I think most people struggle with letting go or just change in general. Because it kills their ego. First, they have to admit that whatever they're doing isn't right. And to create a new version of you have to destroy the current version of you. And that's the hard part. A lot of people will never want to admit that they're wrong. This is for all the stubborn people who never want to change. Even though, actually, you know what? That's the thing is, a lot of people know they need to change. They know the problems. They just don't want to admit to themselves and to other people. It's hard work. And then you have that weird transition phase in the middle where you're like, you know, where I was saying like, okay, I want to be a new person, but I'm not that new person yet. That bit is very confusing, frustrating, and that's when you get tested a lot. Not many people. Because
I felt like that's something I relate to. Like when I was like moving from the old version of me to the new version of me, I had to get rid of so many things from that like kept me asleep. So I was like really awakening to the shit that I needed to improve on. It was lonely, it was confusing. It was like, well, people don't want to go through that.
They don't. They don't.
Go back to normal.
They
had before. But I don't think that's sustainable for anyone.
No. But you know, weird thing about like people, somehow the world just goes around. They could, you know, like even if they don't do the inner work or something, they're still living. They still make it to their deathbed. Life is weird.
Okay, here's a question. Here's a question I had then. I know you mentioned briefly about change, right? And I want to talk a little bit about change right now. About like what happens when you really embrace change. So like, obviously, we all different versions of ourselves and throughout our lives, right? And so for me, for example, what you mentioned, by the way, is like so relatable. Like one that you mentioned about expectations, and I wanted to touch on was about how like, especially as guys, we feel like we have to achieve certain things by a certain age. So like for me, I felt like, you know, I see like all these people like, oh, they did this by 25, they did this by 30, they did this. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing in my life? Like, I'm like this age and I haven't done anything. And it's like your experience is completely different. Your life is completely different. Your fucking where you're from is different. Like everything is different, but you expect the same results. And so like that was very me. Even now I still have it. Like I get like competitive and I'm like, fuck's sake, I need to be doing more. I need to be doing. But I know the other side of me is also like relaxed. Like you also like adjust a person. You know, like people tell you you're great, but like first off, if you don't believe you're great, it doesn't matter what everyone says. You know, like that greatness, that ego, and I think that's such an interesting thing that I want to touch onto also, that ego that people have within themselves to kind of, which stops them from improving because they want to hold on. Like the ego always just wants to hold on to stuff, you know. I remember like meditating and listening to this guy called Eckhart Tolle, and he talks a lot about ego and like letting go of ego to embrace people, to embrace life, because of course.
Okay. Because you just said like letting go of ego, right? And I think that's like a weird misconception people have about ego. Like ego is something negative. Ego is something that you need to get rid of, which is not true. Ego, what is ego? Ego is what makes you aware of you. Ego is something that would say, I'm Christina, I'm amazing, I deserve this and that. That's my ego. We need ego. Ego is there to protect us. All emotions has a purpose, right? Anger has a purpose. Sadness has a purpose. Nothing is just negative. Ego has a purpose too. So for example, let's say I'm trying to belittle you. I'm saying, Jeff, you're shit. Your ego is going to come out. It's going to step up to protect you. Ego is required. Ego is needed. The problem is when it gets to super ego, right? Then you are self-centered. Then you're a narcissist. That's the problem. Everything is to what extent? Everything, like you say, happy is a good emotion. If you're always happy, someone's beating you and you're like, haha, like, you know what I mean? It doesn't work like that. All emotions have a purpose, and ego is always seen as something you need to get rid of, but that's the ego saying you need to get rid of ego. Yeah, you need ego. You need, it's what makes you self-aware. But yeah, it's... Ego is not the problem. I think maybe it's the lack of compassion for other people, or just lack of awareness of other people. Maybe that's the problem. But ego itself is
it's an emotion. It's supposed to, like, it's like an indicator of something you're feeling.
Yeah.
If you're able to, it's how you react with that feeling that matters. Not like, if you just smother it, it doesn't help either, because you still have that feeling. On that point, actually, I want to ask, what is the kind of these negative emotions? Because that's a fascinating point about how emotions have their own things that they're supposed to make us aware of. When you have emotions like jealousy and sadness and like anxiety and depression, what would you say are the kind of like, what they're trying to make us aware of in our lives when we have these emotions?
Okay. So you have something good, right? I'm a competitive person. I get jealous. You know what it shows? It shows that I have desire for what you want. So it has proven to me like, okay, I want that. So jealousy is not the problem. If I go about it in a negative way and I'm envious of you and I want you to feel, that's wrong. It depends on the person's character, right? I can say, you know what? I can notice I felt jealous that he had I don't know, you've got a nice laptop, right? I can use that in a positive way. I'm going to work hard and get myself a nice laptop. It makes me aware of what I want. So it's up to the person. And with
like depression and sadness,
so when we get into depression and sadness, when we start grieving, our body naturally slows down and it gives you that time to grieve. You're supposed to, something big happens, our bodies are supposed to process that emotion. So that's why we go into that sadness and grief, because we are supposed to be processing that. And the thing with depression is obviously something is wrong. That's why you're depressed. So that's for you to now do the work. Why am I not happy? And change that. If you didn't feel that, then you would be stuck in that reality. And that's it. Obviously, when I was depressed, obviously I wasn't happy with my reality. So yeah, it's an indicator. If you're not happy, then obviously you need to do something about it. You need to change that. You're either not happy with yourself as a person or just your environment. There's something that you're not happy with. Yeah.
I love that. That's brilliant. And that's a great segue for the next point, actually, which is, you mentioned about manifesting your reality. What do you mean when you say manifest your reality, and how does that show up for you?
Okay. So without sounding cocky,
talking shit.
So I came across this idea of manifestation a lot later in life, and then I looked into it, the techniques and stuff, and then I realized I've been doing this. I've been doing this. I've always had that knowing that I'm going to be successful. Don't know how. I'm going to be successful. I've always visioned myself. I daydream so much. I'm always visioning stuff, literally. Yeah, I've been doing it all along. And then, and I think the other thing is like just knowing that you are actually in control of your reality. You're in control of yourself. Because I think a lot of people just leave it up to, this is my life, right? And then this is my destiny. Whereas I do agree with that, but then there is free will and then there's destiny. There's so many things that you can change yourself. And I don't believe in just surrendering to that and saying, this is my life and I'm going to take it. You have that control. Everyone does. And yeah, I think people just need to realize that, because right now, when people say like manifestation, the way it comes across is like some magic, like you do something and it just happens. No. Manifesting is creating something. That's another word for it. You create something, right? You want a good education. You go to school. You're in that process of doing that. But then the way nowadays that it's talked about manifest is something like, very unrealistic. You say something like, give me laptop, and it just appears. It's not like that. Exactly. But what happens in reality is, I want this. You keep saying that, you slowly start making actions towards it. So that's the whole, that's the bigger picture. But people don't realize it. They just think, I wrote in my journal that I want this and it's gonna happen, and then there is this whole thing. Do you believe in this? No, you create your reality. You wake up in the morning, you either go to the gym or you stay still. Don't do anything. You know what I mean?
How your outcomes are. Okay.
Yeah.
That's just something very interesting about destiny. What does destiny mean to you? And what does destiny mean to you?
It's just certain things in life out of your control. It's pre-planned, I would say. Pre-planned. Like, when you...
So like fate?
Fate,
what's the difference between fate and destiny?
Fate and destiny is, I think, the same thing. Yeah. I think It's like, I don't know, you know, like when you play games. I don't actually play games, so I could be wrong. But when you no, I was never a gamer, but I've seen like people but you know, there's like a pre-plot story. Yes, yeah. And then once you play the game, that's your free will. Yeah. But there's a pre-plot of where your setup is, what the backstory is, like, right? Yeah. You can't change that. So that's destiny. And then what you do actual playing the game, that's your free will. That's how I can explain. Yeah.
So you're saying like there's certain preset conditions for us to do in life.
Yeah.
And us taking it upon ourselves to actually achieve those things is the free will we have.
Yeah.
So most of us, okay, then would you say that someone's ending is already set, or is it like it's only set depending on what they do? Depends on
how strong your will is.
Go on.
How strong your will is, because yeah, because I don't know, I'm Hindu, but then I think we have this saying, like, if your will is so strong, even like the God will change their mind. The destiny is there, but you have to be stubborn. You have to be stubborn to win in life. You have to have how strong your will is. There's, you know, where there's a will, there's a way. Yeah.
I'm just processing. These are some like good. So okay, so what popped up to mind when you said that, right? Because you mentioned a little bit about how our generation, especially this day and age, there's a kind of like I don't know, it's like astrology type, like, you know, like manifestations and things are gonna come to you if you just believe them. And I don't know how much, and I don't know much about that astrology stuff, but all I know is actions really do speak louder than like intentions. You know, like if you really want something and you go after it with actions day to day, it can be achieved. And you just have to have the confidence within yourself to actually find that time and find that. First is clarity. First is figuring out what you want, what your destiny is, what you want, what you really think that you should be aiming for. Then afterwards, putting the effort in day to day to actually move towards that goal. And while you're moving towards that goal, you're becoming the person that you needed to be. Like, you know, maybe now I look at my life and I think maybe if I want to be a successful podcaster, I need to achieve so much more, which is like whatever, you know. It's just part of like, yeah, the negative too, because it's almost like I have to be another version of myself in order to achieve success. So like by the time I reach there, I'm always feeling like I'm trying to chase something, you know. And I don't think that's really I don't think that's a good way to live day to day. What do you think about that?
Yeah. No, right, so you want again, I'm gonna go on something, but when you know, like you said, you need to like become this person, you need to achieve that before you get there. Sometimes you wanting something so much comes from a place of lack, because you believe you don't have that in you, and you're always looking for the next version, right? You think the next version is going to be better than you get there, but then you're always going to be next version. So there is obviously like a sense of lack that you think something is missing, between like either that skills or whatever that is. There's a lack of something. So I think it's more of realizing, you know what, I am enough as I am right now.
You realize you're enough but still have motivation to achieve more.
Balance. Everything is in balance. There is part of me that will say I'm enough just as I am, I don't need to do anything. There's another part of me that says I need to improve all the time, I need to achieve this. Everything is balance.
So it's not one state of mind.
No. Also, you know, you said that you value actions more than intention. I find that very interesting, and I think it's more because you're a man, I'm a woman, we work very differently. And for me, intention is important. But then at the end of the day, again, it's balance. I can't just sit here and say, I'm putting that intention out, I'm putting good thoughts and not do anything. Sometimes you can put the action, but then deep down, maybe you don't feel like you deserve it, and then you end up sabotaging yourself. So it goes hand in hand. You have to be intentional and you have to put in the action. And intention has so much power to it, so much power, because there's so many things that you can see, you can measure, and then you can like have your actions, right? But what about the things that you can't measure? I want to be more of a loving person. How are you going to measure that? You can't. I'm just going to have to put that intention. Everything I do, I'm doing it with love, and that's how I become a loving person. So yeah, I think it's very different. Like, I don't think there's a right or wrong way of doing about things, because like some of my friends, I've been to therapy, I love therapy. Some people have never been to therapy, and their way of doing is action. Get up, get shit done, and their problem is done. It works for them, you know? Some people.
I think you're right. Like at some point, you have to be able to understand what your intention behind those actions.
Yeah.
So if you're just doing those actions in order to like hide what you really want,
Yeah.
you know, just kind of like outwork your problems.
Yeah.
That's gonna at some point come to a head.
Yeah. But some people are just not as emotional as I am. They don't need to analyze what happened or anything. They can just say that was fucked up, I'm gonna move on. They like, some people work very differently. For me, I have to analyze that, I have to find my lesson, yeah, and then I have to move on.
Like figure out, okay, how does this happen again?
Yeah.
How am I gonna react?
Yeah.
All along.
Some people don't need to do all of that. It's weird.
It's so weird. Okay, I have a question.
Yeah.
That's brilliantly put, actually, and I 100% agree with you. I think a lot of times guys fall into the trap of feeling like action is the only way to solve things, but actually what I'm trying to do more of actually is to look within, you know, like look within myself and figure out what within myself matters to me, and then also like do the work. You know, doing the work doesn't just, you know, manifest in like working out or whatever. It's also like actually sitting there with your emotions. Like what do I feel this emotion? Okay, this emotion is anger, or this emotion is, like you said, a sense of lack. Where does that come from? Is that something I got from my parents? Or is that something I got from my culture? Always feel like I have to achieve stuff, and always feel like whatever I achieve is never enough. You know, those thought processes, that's like, you know what I mean? That's difficult to really get over, but unless you do the work to get over them, you'll just be stuck in that same place.
Yeah, and then the crazy thing is actually most people have gone through it. Most people will go through it in life. You're not always supposed to be happy. You're supposed to go through that at some point in your life. It's not talked about enough. So when we went through it, as when I say we, I'm talking about the young people, right? Everyone was going through it.
I always say that.
Why did it feel like to us that it was a new thing? Why did it feel like we were all by ourselves
alone?
When every person has gone through it, it's just not talked about enough. It's just not like there's not enough awareness, and it's always very extreme. Like, yeah.
How would you combat that? You know, speaking specifically about uni and how everyone does go through shit at uni, but no one feels that they can talk about it.
Yeah.
What would you do if you were able to make a change there?
Okay, I think, you know what? I think it's because at that time we're young and those emotions are new to us. So we just feel like no one will understand us. Even if I talk about it, like, yeah, you're sad about something else, but my situation is different than yours, it's deeper than yours. I think we feel like that. I think we just need to realize, you know what? Our problems are always going to look the biggest to us. Your problem's going to look the biggest to you. Everyone's going through it, and it's like, it doesn't matter what the actual situation is. If I can just understand, like I said, today you were upset, I have no idea what you're upset about, I can still support you. I don't need to understand exactly what your situation is. Just me knowing you're upset, I can then try to support you and I can give you the help. But if I don't know that, then I can't help you, and you can't help yourself either. If you like never even admit to yourself that I'm not okay.
How do you support friends, for example, in a similar situation, who are upset? Like, what are some of the stuff that you do, questions you ask? Like, how do you go about doing that for someone who's like struggles with that?
It depends on their situation. And also it depends on how they are as a person. Some people want to talk about it. They might feel lighter after that. Some people may not. Maybe they just want company. Maybe they want distraction. You know, it depends on the person. It depends also your way of confronting people. Because I know there are some people, they like to make jokes, or some people will actually annoy you, so you don't think about the problem. Like, everyone has different ways, you know. Like, I can't say this is the right way, but yeah, just let them know that you're there for them. You know, just like make yourself like, okay, if you need to talk, I'm here, just there, or at least I understand that you're upset. I sympathize with you. Yeah.
Okay, here's a question then. Just going off that, then I feel like just hearing you speak, I feel like you've been able to align your emotions, your thoughts, your beliefs, like a lot of the things that make a person. You've been able to align that for yourself. What was that process like? What was it like? Because I know, just to speak for myself, right? Like I think I mentioned before, a lot of the stuff that I thought I needed to do was action. And I know we talked about this, but like when I was a bit younger, I felt like I wanted to achieve so much, but I never did anything. And so that gave me a lot of stress and a lot of anxiety about the future. Yeah. And so I was like, for me, I needed to act. I needed to do something, get something wrong, fuck up somewhere, you know, to be able to actually feel like actually, even though it was, looking back now, it's probably not the best, most healthy thing, but I feel like, okay, now I'm worth something. Now I can actually build on these things, right? Yeah. And I know over time I was able to be more vulnerable and more open, and then that second wave of that hate was just really good because it helped me be more open and be more myself, right? That was my process of aligning my thoughts, emotions, and like the values that I had and building those values, right? What was that like for you? What was it like for you to kind of align yourself and become who you are today, essentially, what I'm asking?
Okay. For me, I was actually very, very Maddie knew who she was from a young age. That was me. I always knew who I was, what I wanted from a young age. And then there came a point because I started listening to people outside. They started going in doubt.
That's crazy.
Then I started having a filter. Because I'm like, I want to be
accepted by all the fuck.
Yeah. So I think when I turned 20, it was also about it was more about unlearning than learning. I knew who I was. I was a confident person. Over time, there were people who fucked me over. Now I have to unlearn the beliefs, the whatever they instilled in me. So it was more about actually unlearning that, and I'm still in that process. And I'm like, what I look up to is actually my younger self. And I'm like, I'm doing it for her because she would have looked at me now and said, I reached so much at that age, you're being lazy. My younger self would have kicked my ass.
Speak more now. What's the biggest difference? Just imagine
my younger self had no fear. We learn to get scared as we grow up.
Yes, because we learn about
my younger self had no fear. She was like, okay, I want to do this, I'm going to do this, I'm sure of that. As we grow up, we start getting rejected, or we start like hearing about people like, their doubts, and we start
internalizing that.
So my process is more about unlearning myself and going back to your root, because as a baby, everyone is authentic. No one's,
just genuine and just happy. Yeah, okay. So you mentioned about authenticity and how everyone's authentic as a baby. What question I was asking before, what some of the differences do you see between your younger self and who you are today? And maybe now you've kind of circled back around, but like, you know what I mean, in terms of like who you are?
I'll tell you, the younger self was very fearless, and I think even now, I think as an adult, we tend to think, how is this going to come across in a society or and things like that. You think about that, how is it going to affect other people?
The younger self did not care.
She did not care.
I saw this kid the other day just making fun of this guy's head, and I was like, oh my god, she does not care. Like, all my kids were so mean, but it's genuine. It's so authentic. It's like, I see this head. Why is his head so shiny? It's like,
you just
say it. Like, what was
it's innocent at that time. But then now, even if you say things innocently, you're an adult, then you're supposed to have a little bit, you know? It's also that, but also, I think it just goes back to over time you built a mask. And it's just shedding that.
I think, let's go on that then. I think what's so interesting about shedding that mask, I think, over time, is that, because I still feel like I'm still finding out who I am, every single day. Sometimes I think I'm this version of myself, and then, like, one of the biggest change for me, or biggest alignment for me, was realizing that I'm every version of myself.
Right.
I'm all of that at once. There is no struggle between each of them, because I was trying to figure out which version is truly me, who am I really with, one of my friends. Like, no, you're all of them. You're all every single one at once. Go off that. What comes to you?
I had a similar experience as well. Where especially I'm like, even as like an ethnic background, right? You're different around white people. You're different around your own culture. You know what I mean?
Different at home, different friends. Different type of friends that you have too.
And you have different versions of yourself. And I think recently I went through like, who am I? I kept asking myself that question, like, who am I? And then first I started having this like adjectives, right? How I would describe myself, and that's not it, because that can change. So I was like, who am I? And then it was not like a word or an answer, it's a feeling. You know your energy, you know your presence, right? It's true.
It's so true.
I can describe you as Jeff as A, B, C, and there's another person with the same quality. Does that person make Jeff? No, Jeff is Jeff. You have your own energy. So it's like more, I always ask them, who am I? It's not none of the words. It's my energy, and you have to be aware of your energy. You have to sit with the presence. I think meditation is good for that, because then you get to really like understand your own energy.
That's beautifully put. That's so good.
And I think the other thing you said, like, you're all of that version, but at the same time you're also always changing. So it's like you can't attach yourself with one version at that time. Yeah.
And that's such a struggle too, because like, how are you supposed to? Because I struggle to make decisions, thinking, okay, well, like, if I'm going to change, are these decisions worth anything? But I know the answer to this. Obviously, it doesn't matter. Make a decision. Like later on, if you need to like make a different decision, you do that.
Yeah.
But like that kind of ever-changing thing that comes of just trying to improve yourself.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes people fall into this, and I want to know what you think about this too. The self-improvement kind of cycle, where they always feel like there's more to improve. So they always feel like they have to keep doing more in order to try to achieve something, get somewhere. But like they'll never find time to just enjoy who they are now.
Yeah.
I know we spoke about it as a balance, but like, has that been your experience? How have you overcome that if it has?
Yeah, I think I struggled with that as well. Always feeling like there's some inner work to do. I always there to improve myself, and then you're basically like a project to yourself, right?
Literally.
Yeah, and then I don't know. I think over time I just realized I'm enough. Like I'm genuinely enough, and I think it all goes back to self-love. Self-love is so important. Self-love is the most important thing in the world.
Speak.
Again, if you love yourself, you're going to treat yourself right. That's your relationship with yourself. But other thing is that if a person doesn't love themselves, they're not able to love anyone else either. Everything comes from self-love. And like everything comes from like all the relationship with the world. If there's no love, there's no compassion, the world would end. And it's the same thing. If I don't have self-love, I'll be self-destructive and I'll literally destroy myself and other people in the process. That's
beautiful. That's an amazing segue into our next topic, which I don't even know if you did it on purpose. That's amazing. Okay. What is love? Let's really dig into it. I want to look at love from different angles. Like, imagine it's like a hexagon. I want to look at it from all the different angles that we see.
Yeah.
What is love? When I say the word love, what emotions, what thoughts, what ideas come to you?
Oh, I don't know. When you think of love, you just feel warm. You just feel warm,
Warm and fuzzy, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I don't think it's something I can like describe. Like, this is love.
What are some of the different types of love then that you're aware of? So we have self-love. We have romantic love.
Yeah.
Platonic love you mentioned before.
Yeah.
What are some of the other types of love that you've noticed?
I think, I don't know if this is a term, but like just a divine love. Divine love isn't just feeling that feeling of state of like a one, right? We're all one being and just actually having that love for everything. Being able to love the trees because we're all part of the same nature. I think when you get to that level, life is sweet. Life is sweet. Because you know what? I don't feel lonely no more. I can be by myself. I've got everything surrounding me, I've got nature there surrounding me. I've got a friend right here.
Yeah,
I've got freaking air.
You've got
right
life
here.
itself.
Yeah. The air I can breathe. It's everywhere. The more you love the more love you can give, the more love you will feel as well. So yeah.
Okay. You mentioned self-love. Talking about self-love, what is that process? But people, like you mentioned, some people, I think we all start with self-destructive. What is that process like to go from being self-destructive to having self-love and compassion for yourself? What are some of the stuff you have to realize about who you are as a person, realize about people, realize about the world, for you to go from being self-destructive and actually try to make that process towards being loving?
I think for me, again, it was all about me going back to my root and shedding the stuff, right? So again, I didn't start off as someone who lacked self-love, not at all. But then events happened. So it was me like learning to be back like my old self, reconnecting with my old self. One important thing is everyone deserves love. You don't need to like work for it. You don't need to, am I worthy? You don't need to do something to gain it. You deserve it. It's your right. It's to be loved. I think that's something that people need to realize, because I think there's so much like, who does she think she is to be, doing that? I don't need to be anything. I'm allowed to love myself, and so is everyone. I think that's something people don't realize. I think there's like, I have to do something, and then like it's justified. No.
I think also a lot of that comes from romantic love, right? When we feel like if we love someone, they have to love to like us back. Because if they don't like us back, then what's the point? Talk to me about romantic love. How does that manifest? What are some of the stuff that we get wrong about romantic love, just like how, if you agree with what I just said also, but also stuff like that.
I think my main issue with romantic love is the attachment bit.
Mm.
And that's why I'm purposely not trying to get into a relationship.
Mm-hmm.
Because, for example, let's say right now,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, you're a busy person,
Mm-hmm.
you're at work,
Mm-hmm.
and you're working with, I don't know, females.
Mm-hmm.
Right, let's just say, I'm just throwing like a random example, yeah?
Yeah.
Right now we're not in a relationship, and
Mhm.
I'll just probably think, oh, he's working on his career, good for him.
Mm-hmm.
If we're in a relationship, I'm gonna feel like, why is he
Why is
around? You know?
Why is
There
he
is-
talking to her?
yeah, there is a sense of control. It naturally happens. I think it naturally happens. I'm not in a state where if I were in a relationship, I can stay detached.
Mm.
I'll just stay detached. I don't want a relationship right now. So, but anyway, I think there's this whole sense of like we are one.
Mm-hmm.
You're not one. You're two different individuals. You're just in a relationship. You don't control each other. You don't own each other. I think that's the main thing is that that's my man, so I can treat him whoever. Or that's my girl, so she can do this for me. You're not two different beings, and you have to like respect their wishes. You have to respect their space as well. And I think in a relationship, there's crazy people out there. There's crazy people out there. That's all I can say.
That's all you can say. That's all we can both say. It's kind of mad.
The stuff I've heard, the stuff, no.
Yeah, man. When people get into romantic relationships, it becomes like very, very possessive and attached, and all those things about human love gets like distorted.
Yeah.
But that's like a whole different conversation. Okay, I was like juxtaposing romantic love with now platonic love.
Yeah.
You made a video recently that I really liked. I want you to kind of expand on what you were talking about there. Where you kind of mentioned about how you're noticing platonic love around you and seeing the value of that.
Yeah.
Talk to me about that, like in comparison to maybe what you just said about romantic love too.
Okay, so I've actually been in a relationship from quite a young age,
Mm-hmm.
and then I realized I never really had the time to be single. Even when I was single, I was speaking to someone. I've never been single. So what that made me was I relied on their validation. If they love me, my life is good. If they think I'm pretty, I'm pretty. You know, I relied on that so much, and that becomes the relationship became my world as well. The person became my world, and my identity became this person's girl.
Yeah.
So it was a lot of that, and then that's why I decided to like just let me take a break. I need to figure out who I am as when I'm just by myself, when I'm not in a relationship. And then I think there's something about romantic relationship that is glorified. Like it's the one thing like you're supposed to find the love of your life, you know, and it's also like a way of measuring success. Or if you're not married, you know, you're supposed to be married, you're supposed to have a partner. It's glorified way too much. And people end up being in a bad relationship just to say they have someone. Rather be by yourself, you know? And platonic love is something I didn't value before, but it's, again, I don't know, I think romantic relationship, obviously there's a certain level of intimacy, and people, that's why I think they love you more, but that's not always the case. There are some friends that I don't talk to all the time, but because I've known them for so long, or just because that I care about them so much, I'm always gonna wish them the well. I'm gonna wish them well.
Just kept going. It's like nothing happened.
But you know what I mean? I'm like, there's some friends like I may not even talk to them so much, but
Honestly,
I have more love for them than I had for like my partners even. But just because like you don't talk all the time, you don't realize it. Or even on Instagram, some people I've spoken to, or like some people I just kind of know, right? Like from school. When I see some like they post like they've graduated, I get happy for them, but they don't see that, and I don't see that from other people as well. Like you found my channel, you had your opinions. I wouldn't have known that because it's not always communicated, but it's there. And sometimes it's like you need to open open the eyes and really kind of pay attention to people who actually care about you. Even asking like remembering certain details. I remember you said you were going to do this. How's that going? They care about you. You just don't realize it because they're not like all up in your face. Yeah.
100%. That's beautiful. Like that's really what I feel. Like I know like. It's difficult to kind of like conceptualize romantic love in your mind, and also like in comparison to platonic love. I feel like for me, I'm making that journey now. I'm only now realizing as I get to a certain age, I'm like, wait, like, because it's so weird, right? Like growing up, it was all like, okay, if you see a girl, go try and get her. It's like what? That's like half the people I know. Imagine like half the people you know, you're just always either trying to be friends, not be friends with them, actually do something or not be friends, and it's like. that became so toxic when I grew up, and I was like, nah, that's not who I am. That's not genuine. That's not like really. That's just me taking something from the culture that I've been grown up in and trying to make it like this is who I am.
Okay, the culture you're talking about. I find it so weird that people think it's weird to be friends with the opposite gender.
Yeah.
And that's when you know it's messed up. So you don't see them as a human being. You can't just be friends with them unless you're getting something.
Yeah.
And it's not okay for you to care about someone
unless
you're trying to get something. I think that shows more about that person, how they would treat someone who they're not in a relationship with. Then like, you know, and like, oh yeah, they're too close, like men and women can never just be friends. Well, clearly you can't. You clearly just, you know.
To be fair, like, I was gonna say, like, to be fair, I remember like when I was, because I'm not that much of a change. Like, I used to believe that version of the truth. Only a couple of years ago, and I think it was because I think also it's funny, right? Because I think it's because when guys get into that situation and they don't know who they are, they don't know how to communicate what they want, they feel like the expectations come into play, you know. And only now that I'm starting to see, like, oh, okay, like it's actually within yourself and your lack of ability to actually know how you feel about people, because sometimes it is platonic. And that's actually a better state to be in than romantic, because when it gets to romantic, like we talked about before, there's expectations, there's attachment, there's people blowing up your phone. Where are you? It's like whoa! Like before we were so cool, we were great friends, like, you know. But now you want something more, and then it's always because people, I think we go into our heads to always want more. And I think you're absolutely right. True maturity and true like growth comes in understanding like people are just people. Like if you connect to someone, you connect to that person for those reasons. Maybe it's an interest that you both have or perspective that you both share. You know, that doesn't need to blossom into something more. It needs to be that. It needs to be, I guess, you can cultivate that relationship by doing what that thing is. You know, if it's a platonic love, cultivate that platonic by having conversations, by developing more. You know, like figuring out what they're going through and trying to help them. And like, there's no kind of identity or something, a label that you need to put on them. You know? And I think that's something I'm only learning now. So I'm not speaking like I'm a perfect person, by the way, guys. Like,
no one is.
I am a flawed human being, but that's like something I'm really learning. I think that's interesting. What do you say then? We spoke a little bit about it today, but what do you say about some of the things that guys get wrong when it comes to how they deal with girls, both in platonic love, in romantic love, just like some perspectives that you think from your perspective that they get wrong?
Oh.
And I'm not saying this has to be right, because I know it's from your perspective, but something you've seen, how guys like maybe miscommunicate something, maybe.
Oh, okay, you know what? I got something.
Go on.
This is guys always misunderstand. See, when a girl is being like nice to you, right? She is choosing to be nice to you. It's not because of you. What happens is they take it to the ego. She's like, you know, she's a baddie and she's all over you. So what does that make you? She can take that like this.
Yeah.
She can take that like this.
Yeah, she can just like be completely cold.
And sometimes she's being caring because she's a caring person, not necessarily because you are all this. And I feel like people don't, that's why a lot of men don't appreciate what they have until they lose and they realize, oh, she was actually doing a lot for me. And the other thing, so sadly, motherly, anything like a mother figure is always looked down on, right? And in a relationship, the women, not always, but they tend to take that role a little bit where they end up caring for someone and it becomes very unvalued. It's expected. Women are supposed to take care of me. They're supposed to feed me. They're not supposed to. It's always once it's gone, you realize, you know, the value of it. It's not their duty. So yeah, let your girlfriends be girlfriends and let your mum be your mum. Grow up.
I love that. I was like, I came from a place of truth. Like, I love that shit. Honestly, though. 100%.
Are you looking for a maid? Like, real question.
No, 100% agree with you. 100% agree with you.
Yeah.
And I think, like, I mean, like, it works both ways. But, like, especially you see guys fall into a trap of letting their girlfriend to their mums, and it's like, what are you doing? You're ruining what you have because you don't. They fall into that, like, it's like what you said, you don't realize what you have until it's gone.
Yeah.
And like really you fall into like the things that are good, we don't value it, and you don't value it like in the moment, you know, until like only after you go like, fuck's sake, what did I do?
Yeah.
Another question. What are some of the stuff do you think girls get wrong about relationships? Some, you know, we've talked about guys.
Yeah.
What the other side? What are some of the stuff that girls get wrong about relationships?
Oh, about relationships.
Or misunderstand about love. The what love is, how to gain love, or how should they feel about love within themselves. Just all that whole topic. But from a female perspective, women's perspective.
I think what something we misunderstand is, okay, so even like recognizing love, I think is very difficult for women in general.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, because it's hard to tell the intention. It's like, it's not just the action. People can do stuff for you and they might not have the best intention for you.
Yeah.
So I think it's very hard for us to differentiate that, the differentiating lust and love as well. Especially if the person is experienced in acting like they can love someone, right? And I've seen this so many times where people know that they're doing that. And I think it's very hard for us to differentiate that, the intention. So I don't know, I don't have like...
What advice would you give to someone that's dealing with someone like that, who they're not sure about their intentions? How would they go about determining if they actually care about them or if it's just lust?
Well, if you're actually really confused that if it's love or lust, I would say don't have sex. Don't get physical. Don't do any of that. If that person, if you can even have a conversation, what do you guys like connect on? If the main point of your connection is sexual, then obviously it's that. If you want to pursue that type of a relationship, if you do, that's completely fine. But if you're looking for love, then don't be doing any of that until you actually realize that person loves you. And this is my advice to my younger self as well. I'm not perfect either. It's very hard for us because, yeah.
Life happens so fast here. Like it's just like boom, 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 and your decisions and your intentions and like everything just gets like. So it's like to really like parcel it out, but like, actually this is what I am, this is who I am, this is what I want. It takes us messing up a few times, I think.
That's literally how you learn. And even if you like I said, okay, don't get involved like that, but a person could just be patient. They could be waiting 2 years to get. You don't know.
That's crazy.
You don't know. That's why you gotta use your intuition.
2 years? That's mad.
You don't know. I've seen a lot of different characters where you never know.
You never know. That's kind of crazy. Okay. Fair enough. Okay. To button up that point, what would you say is the role of love, just as in our existence? What do you think the role love plays in how we are as people in the human experience?
Love is what makes us human. What's the difference between another animal and us? Is the fact that we can have compassion for people, we can love people. That's literally what makes us human. So it's really sad that we now live in this world, that we're so disconnected from each other, that you got in London. This was such a shock for me, So I grew up in Surrey. People there are a lot more, it's a smaller town, a lot more friendlier. If I go out on a walk, I can say, hey, you're right, good morning, how are you? I can say that. When I came to London,
don't chat to me.
I didn't know that. I remember, I'm in a good mood, I woke up in a good mood, I'm walking to the tube station, so I smiled at someone. That person had a normal face, as soon as I smiled, they gave me the stank look. Like, what is she doing?
What are you smiling like? What do you want?
Yeah, and it's so normal here.
Yeah, it's mad.
It's normal, but it's so sad that we live in a society that we're so disconnected from each other. That if I smile at you, something must be wrong. I must be doing that to get something out of you. Like, can I not smile at you just because I want to smile at you? You know, it's actually so sad. The fact that people only like love their family and just like their partner. Love should be for everything, you know?
100%. Do you have hope for the future then with that happening?
You know what? The new generation is actually so woke.
Really?
I actually do.
Yeah,
the new generation is so woke when it comes to like everything, right? Mental health.
Mental health, they're really on that,
They're very woke, and I feel like there is a hope, but then I don't know. Because none of the idea is brand new. Everything has been there, and it's up to the people either they take that idea and the knowledge. It's not even about educating people, it's been there. Like all the religions been there. All the knowledge that we're just learning, right? It's been there. It was written hundreds of years ago. So I don't know, but I want to be positive. I would say that, yeah. I want to be hopeful.
I like it. Positivity wins. Yeah. Thank you so much for this. Let me just wrap this up, bring in some, and I got some closing questions for you. First off, you mentioned about Gen Z and how they woke, and like, I always give the chance for people to ask, what advice would you give to, let's not even Gen Z, but let's say 18-year-old version of you is watching this, sitting there, you know, and what advice would you give to her about how to find who she is, manifest her destiny, and really become who like she's meant to be, you know, follow that version of herself that they become the best version of herself, essentially.
Okay. Answer is simple, be yourself. Like I said, the whole building a mask, you learn to do that. Don't bother with that. Because that's how you attract authentic, real people in your life. And people, the type of people you have in your life, they will actually shape your destiny, shape your life. So there's no point like trying to fit in and trying to be someone else. I don't think I ever tried to like proper fit in, but it was more like, you know, you pick up the signs, right? Someone liking you, not liking you, and so you try to like fit in a little bit. You know, like subconsciously everyone does that. So I would just say, fuck it, be weird. Because I think I have a little bit of quack to myself. That should be the fucking title of this fucking episode. Yeah, everyone has their own weirdness or whatever. 100%. Don't try to be normal. Like, just be you. And
it's more enjoyable that way.
And let people reveal their true colours. Yeah. They're either gonna like you for you, and some people it's not even like good or bad. You're just not a good match. And that's fine. You move on. Yeah. Just be yourself. And the same thing with what you manifest. If you're not real, you're not gonna manifest something that you actually like. You'll end up manifesting a fake reality of yourself. You know. So just be you.
And lastly, what's some of the things you're looking forward to in the next few months? I know there'll be some things we can't speak about, but just in terms of life. Yeah. Just in terms of like like how life is shaping, and what are some of the things you're hopeful for, looking forward to, excited about going forward?
Yeah, so I'm actually, the whole process of shedding, I'm still going through it, and I think I just had like a big purge recently. So I'm very excited to live life with like a new perspective, new lens almost. Like I think the way I view myself is changing. I would say it's changed. And this is just the start. Like I said, I just had that purge, and I've just had another, like a change.
It just keeps happening.
Yeah. So just that. So I'm just excited to see like how this new version of me is. I want to get to know the new version of myself. How does she act? How does she see the view the world?
That's beautiful. Oh my god. Okay, finally, any questions for me? I always give the guests a chance to ask me a question that they have a thought of, or they always wanted to ask me. So, any questions? If not, do you have a question?
Yeah, I do.
Okay,
I didn't know you were such like a deep thinker. Obviously, we're not that close in uni, but I didn't know you were such a deep thinker as well. So, like, what's something, I don't know, that you think about a lot?
Okay, I can go for that. I've always been a deep thinker. I've always hated small talk because I want to talk about deep shit. But like we said, like it's hard. You morph into the people that are around you. So like when I was at uni, a lot of that was happening. Like when I was around other people, if I didn't feel like they understood me, I would like morph into. And I was more of a people pleaser back then. I can get along with people easily. So it's easy to not know which version. Like come back to what I said before. I don't know which version of you are. What's something I think about a lot? Two things actually. First, it might be morbid, but I think about my death. It's my death.
Okay.
I think about the concept of death. The concept of the fact that we have limited time here. The concept of the fact that what we're doing here, like it's about, and it helps me not be fake. Because I realize if I have this much time left with my parents and my friends, everyone that we are on this planet, like 100 years we're all gonna be gone. None of this is gonna matter. Like, why am I being fake? Why am I not being genuine? You're sitting across with someone and actually being who I am, Why am I trying to put up a mask? And when I realize that, when I think about that, it just makes me a bit like, fuck that shit. Like, it's like, why the fuck would I do that? It becomes easier for me to really be who I am. So, like, I try to, even though people think it's morbid, I think I look at it in a positive way, as in, like, everything has its time. You have your time here also. Make that count, be genuine, reach out to people and connect to people. I think that's really important. And that's what this podcast is about, essentially. And another deep thing that, I always just think about life. I don't know, I've always just had that perception in my mind. I'll be walking around and being like, you know, I think in the past life I might have been like an anthropologist. Like I just love, I love looking at people and be like, what is your story? Like, I wonder what you do. Right? You know what I mean? Whatever you do in your life, whatever just where you're from and what you're dealing with and the battles you're going through.
You want to know the story.
What's your story? And so like I always just like be sitting there thinking that and like try to build a life and be like, okay, how would I connect to this person? And but yeah, again, like it's just also like a lot about how to improve, which is probably not great because it just I'm very hard on myself. A lot of people don't know, but like my mind is a storm sometimes because it's just like, okay, get up, do this. Like if I like to take a break, it's like, no, must not break. Get up, and it's like relax. And it's like both sides of my brain warring with each other, trying to understand which version that I need to be. And a lot of like me growing up is like merging those two.
Yeah.
I know you have something to say. I know a couple of times you're about to say something.
I like the whole thing about, you know, like once you realize we're all gonna die.
Yeah.
Then you start living differently.
100%.
Because we all know we're all gonna die, but it doesn't quite hit us, you know, because we're always like, oh yeah, it's far ahead in the future.
Do you think about that a lot? Do you think about your own mortality?
I know I'm gonna die at some point, right? But I also believe that I'm not gonna die until it's my time.
Ooh, okay.
Like I believe, you know, like there's
You're gonna have time to do
so to me it's like I'll die when the time is right for me, so there's no reason for me to worry.
There's no rush.
I have a purpose in this universe. Until I'm done doing what I'm supposed to be doing here, God's not gonna take me out. And when it's time, it's my time, you know? I'm done. Bye.
That is a great way to end this podcast. Thank you so much for coming in. Thank you so much for doing this. I had a great time. I hope you enjoyed it too. I mean, 100%. I think what you're doing is amazing. The honesty, the vulnerability, the clarity of speech, like the way you think, just the person you are. Like you mentioned that you're excited to see who you are going to become in the future. I'm excited for that too. I feel like I just made a friend. I feel like it's just been so cool to really
No, thank you so much for like having me as well. So yeah, Jeff. Subscribe to him because he's an amazing guy.
Thank you so much. Thanks for doing this, and I hope to do this again. But until next time, thank you for watching. Thank you for being here. Peace.